Coming up on the show, we talk about mental health issues that are facing most Americans today. We talk to two podcast hosts who have their own show and are raising awareness about the conversation. Stay tuned.
Welcome to The Right to Inspire. Journalist and host Sarah Strackhouse has worked at Fox News, the CW, CBS, NBC, and Time Warner cable stations across the country for more than 10 years and is now focused on telling inspiring stories of those dedicated to making change. She's driving the message home that ultimately you have the right, the freedom, and the power to be the change you want to see in the world. You have the right to inspire.
Thanks so much for joining us for The Right to Inspire, because you have the right, the freedom, and the power to be the change that you want to see in the world. I'm so excited to bring to you our two guests for today. We have Brandi Mock and Karla Hutcherson. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and I wanted to go through a little bit about your backgrounds, and I want to talk about your podcast because you have an incredible, very successful podcast called Mental Perk. Brandi Mock, entrepreneur, author, co-host of the show, relentless entrepreneur, and in the transportation world. That must have been so interesting. And I want to, ask you a little bit about that.
Lots of counseling after being in that business.
Well, which brings us perfectly to Karla.
I've got my 24/7 here. It's a very fast-paced industry.
Yeah.
So I actually specialized in shipping cars.
Wow.
So we'd ship up to 60,000 vehicles a year.
Oh my gosh.
So a lot of stress involved.
Yeah. So then you retired from that industry, right? So
I did.
When did you start? When did you connect with Karla and decide to?
So Karla and I have always been connected.
Okay.
Before we actually started Mental Perk, we were actually volunteers for a nonprofit that went around and spoke to schools, students, and trained parents, educators about teenage suicide prevention and awareness. Wow. So Karla and I hooked up while she was at Children's, and then she worked at the foundation. And so it ended up being just we always got along.
Yeah.
And kind of always had that chemistry with each other. So we approached each other about doing not just suicide prevention, but all things mental health.
Right. Well, and I know that's so prevalent in today's society. And Karla, a licensed professional counselor, also co-host of the show. Both of your expertises, and I've listened to your show. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about how, connecting with Brandi and starting the show.
Yeah, no, Brandi and I we really hit it off when we were working for this nonprofit, and we really enjoyed speaking together. We were doing trainings. We were talking to schools, talking to students. And so we just really were passionate about mental health, and we wanted to find a more modern, fun way to really bring people's attention and awareness to mental health. And we thought, let's do a podcast.
Yeah.
That would be amazing, because I think we could reach a really wide audience and really be able to destigmatize talk about mental health and do it with some humor and perspective. So we really like that. And we try to play on that and let people know, hey, it's okay to talk about mental health.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to quickly play your video, which talks a little bit about your podcast. So go
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Karla Hutcherson, licensed professional counselor.
And I'm Brandi Mock, entrepreneur and author. Together, we're passionate mental health advocates and professional speakers dedicated to transforming lives and empowering our communities.
We know that mental health challenges impact all of us in some way, and that's why we've made it our mission to break the stigma and inspire hope. We use our backgrounds, our experiences, and our hearts to reach people where they are.
Our audience range from students, first responders, and parents to veterans and more. Every presentation is a dynamic, evidence-based created to address topics like PTSD, resilience, and healing trauma.
We've developed keynote speeches like Healing Invisible Wounds and Rising Strong, where we don't just share stories, we offer strategies that empower and inspire real change.
Hearing feedback like this keeps us motivated to keep going, keep speaking, and keep serving.
Hello friends, I just want to thank Brandi and Karla so much for how they are ambassadors to Hope After Brain Injury. They spoke at our support group in August and did an absolutely fabulous job. Not only did they know facts about TBI, they also knew a lot about the mental challenges of TBI, traumatic brain injury. And so I just want to thank them for their efforts, their heart, and we are so proud to call them part of our team, our colleagues, and our dear friends.
And we're not just on stage. Our work extends to our podcast, Mental Perk, where we dive into conversations about mental health, self-care, and living life to the fullest.
It's all about bringing people together, reminding them they're not alone. We say it on every episode. You're worthy. We're in this together.
Whether it's through speaking, podcasting, or training sessions, we want to empower people to take proactive steps toward their own wellness.
If you're ready to create impactful change in your organization, or you need voices that connect, uplift, and inspire, we'd love to work with you. Let's make a difference together.
Well, and what I love, like I've said this before, your show, it's kind of a heavy subject, but you keep it light and you keep that stigmatism out of it. Tell me a little bit about some of the topics that you talk about on the show and what audience you're really trying to talk to.
You know, I think anybody that has dealt with mental health is who we're targeting. And I think anybody that has dealt with someone, a loved one with mental health, that's what we're talking about. And so I think that's our target. There is no limit to mental health with anybody out there. So we really just focus on everybody.
Yeah, mental health, it doesn't discriminate, right? So it's going to touch everybody's lives. And I think everyone in the audience, I mean, we all know somebody who's struggling with mental health. And, it doesn't have to be debilitating.
Right.
It's one thing about mental health that's very treatable. There's so much progress being made in treatment of mental health and of all different kinds. And so people are living very successfully with it. And we like to point that out.
Yeah. Well, and I know, I just had 2 kids and, you get the baby blues or whatever you want to call it afterwards, postpartum feelings, right? I know. And it's, I always heard about the postpartum depression. I had never heard of postpartum anxiety, which was what I feel like I had. And I don't think it was terribly severe, but it was enough that I was like, something's going on. And I had no idea, how to handle it, right? Because it also is that you feel taboo or you feel a little broken or something. And it's, that having a safe space to talk about that, what you guys are bringing to light is amazing. So
I think we see a lot too, that a lot of times you'd be more prepared for this stuff if the doctors would educate you.
Right.
And I know they're getting better about postpartum and all that good stuff, but a lot of it is just, they don't talk about it until you're having to go to them.
Right.
Well, and I think the more that you talk about mental health, you realize, hey, I'm not alone in this.
Right.
I can connect with people and really learn and get the support that I need because I'm actually talking about it.
Well, and you go to the doctor afterwards and they have you check out a little, there's a little form that you check out or, do you feel like you want to kill yourself? Well, no, but, there's all these things. It wasn't until actually I was talking with my Bible study group that we were kind of talking about just postpartum and in that world. And they were like, oh yeah, of course we get like anxiety and, those thoughts and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, this is normal.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of neat too, because television shows are now picking up on it and doing storylines of mental health or postpartum. And you're starting to see this and you're like, yes, that's me. That's me.
Yes.
And so I think that that's really great that we're seeing media start to pick up and tell stories about it and really start to normalize it so that people are talking about it.
Well, and that's, I had some statistics in the US, like anxiety disorders, depression, post-traumatic stress, ADHD, bipolar, those are the top 5, according to NAMI, those are the top 5, mental illnesses that people are dealing with right now. And I wanted to know from your professional opinions, do you think, the numbers seem to have increased? Do you think it's more awareness? Do you think the numbers are actually increasing? So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Oh.
I think that we're seeing more diagnosis of these things, but I also feel people are starting to talk about it and deal with it. So people are not hiding it as much. But I also feel like there's other factors that are contributing or triggering mental health. And so, when we talk about social media and we talk about all the things out there that we're now exposed to, it really can, if you weren't suffering from symptoms, in a severe way or that you really noticed, once you're triggered by these things that you're seeing or hearing, you do see the symptoms progress. And so I feel like social media has played a big part in that.
Yeah. Well, and as parents, as an LPC, what is your recommendation for kids? I mean, you both are, parents of children and girls also, I think, feel like, scrolling on social media is rough.
It is rough.
So the funny thing, I say funny, it's not funny, but the story that came to me was when we first got involved with the foundation that we're involved in, it took my daughter coming home to me because someone that she knew had committed suicide.
Wow.
And I was, no, we're not doing it. We're not going to the funeral. But then it was a moment of I could tell everybody she pulled the G card, the God card. And she said, I feel like we're being called to be there and I feel like we need to talk about this. Now, mind you, suicide, I've had 5 suicides in my family.
Wow.
And we were taught not to speak about it. You just did not talk about mental health. And that's where it was that moment for me to go, you know what, this is important. I suffer from depression and I've made sure my kids know that it's okay to not be okay, but to be able to talk about it and be able to go to someone and share it and even get medication if you need to. I think that's the biggest thing. So I think it's very important at a young age, parents start speaking to their children about how they're feeling, why they feel this way, what triggered them, you know, and then get counseling.
Yeah.
Totally think about talking about feelings. I think the more we talk about feelings and teach our kids to talk about feelings, the more that they're going to be aware of what to look for. But I also want to acknowledge and validate the challenges of parenting. You know, I mean, my kids are grown now, and parenting's always challenging. But what parents have to deal with right now,
we survived,
where their kids are exposed to things they're not developmentally ready to handle, all through these telephones and social media. You know, I really just encourage parents to limit those phones. Don't worry about keeping up with people or that your child's being left out. It is okay to limit phone use and maybe not give it to them until they've shown you they're developmentally ready to handle those things. And even at that, have restrictions on the internet use. There's just things they don't need to see till they're ready. Yeah. And I think that's so important that parents, we empower them and not villainize them for keeping their kids kind of, I mean, we don't want to keep our kids in a total bubble. We don't want to bubble wrap them, but we do want to make sure that we're exposing them to things as they're ready for them.
Right. No, that's great advice. And you're absolutely right. I mean, when I was growing up, we didn't have phones. We didn't have social media. You know, I had this big block phone that I could play Snake and I could send like 5 texts, a month, right?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, well, this is rough. I don't want to use this phone. Yeah. And, I'm thinking about, my kids are little, they're 1 and 3, but, I was already, they know how to swipe and they know how to do things. And, mommy, show me a turtle on your phone or, whatever it is, they're addicted to these screens. So it's just,
it's become convenient for the parents.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, if you can give your kid a tablet and let them watch a movie or something, it takes stress off of us, but we don't realize kind of the chaos we're creating in the midst of it, right?
Yeah. I would say phone companies, bring back the flip phone. If we want our kids back and we want to really maintain their mental health, bring back that flip phone.
You know, what's funny is there's this thing called the Gab Watch, and I'm not trying to, plug anything, but there's this thing called the Gab Watch that one of my family members got for their children. And it's just literally like a little watch. You think it's like kind of like an Apple Watch, but it's not. And it's just, they can chat with you. You can only chat with certain people. You can talk into it. But, for kids who are, in that 6 to 10 range, where they're kind of, right? I know. I thought it was great. That way they can communicate, but you can't do anything on the watch. But I was like, that's cool.
I mean, there's some advantages to the cell phone so that you can know where your child is. I mean,
I was able to practice ended early.
I was able to catch my daughter. One time she said she was somewhere and she was somewhere else, and I kind of caught her when she got home, and she's like, "How did you know?" And I was like, "I've got eyes everywhere." It's all on the cell phone.
Yeah, of course. She doesn't need to know. It's okay.
She's still trying to figure it out.
Right? I have a direct line to Santa. I love that.
Too funny.
Yeah. Well, and it's great that you guys are talking about this. And like I said, kind of normalizing that conversation. Because in today's world, it's tough. I was looking at some of these statistics. 19% of adults annually have anxiety disorders, and it's most common between young adults, the 18 to 29 age group.
Yes.
That was pretty shocking to me. And that's, of course, according to the National Institute of Mental Health. It was... I was thinking that it was more like the older age group, but no, it's that in between, right out of college, I assume.
Yes. That is an area where I'm seeing in my private practice the increase in these young adults who are coming into the world, and they went through COVID at a very developmental time. And so they missed out on so many aspects of life because of COVID. And so we're seeing that they didn't get some of the skills that they needed. And so as they're graduating from college, getting into the world and having to face some of these challenges, it does build a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
Super smart kids. I mean, these kids have so much talent, and they're just struggling on really trying to manage, the emotions that go around those challenges.
Oh, yeah.
Karla and I talked to you about the statistics. They're way off.
Are they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's based on what's reported, correct?
Oh, true.
So if it's not being reported, it's not being documented.
Right.
So they really should be higher.
Yeah, they're really absolutely.
Well, and in theory, my postpartum wasn't documented.
Right.
You know, there was nothing about it. I'm sure, countless other moms are just trying to survive, you know, when you have the little ones or you just, one positive I will say about social media, I know there's many positives, but you start seeing moms a little bit more talking about the struggle, or, you're starting to see that a little bit more. So I wanted to kind of get your take on how the media portrays mental health and how social media and that side of things. I know you touched on it before a little bit.
Yeah, but I think there are some positives to it. And I think what you pointed out is really important. I think when social media first started, everyone wanted to appear perfect.
Right.
Right? We want to show that we're having this perfect life and my family's great and all these things. But what we know is that wasn't true. And that's where the depression and the anxiety came from. I think we're doing a flip here. I think we're starting to see people take off the filters.
Yes.
And really start to show some of the real sides of life, where I think that's going to be very helpful as we move forward in managing mental health, is people being honest about it.
Right.
I think Selena Gomez does a great job of that. She's beautiful, she's talented, and she talks about her mental health struggles. And I know there's a lot of other celebrities that are doing the same thing, but now just getting people in real life talking about those things will also help. And so I do feel like we can't totally villainize social media, because I think we can use it for good as long as we're being real with it.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it's kind of nice seeing people come out and this with the statistics probably just being much lower than what is in reality. I mean, I just seeing that on social media has been great. So, but I also want to talk a little bit about some current events that we're seeing and some of the stresses that are kind of surrounding some of those things. You guys brought up the fire going on in California and just all of the people that are having to flee. And then, of course, the inauguration this weekend and some of those things. So I wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on how to cope with that, or, conversations surrounding that. I dropped a bomb. There you go.
The two things, religion and politics, you stay away from, right? I think there's a renewed hope right now that we're dealing with. I think that we're seeing a lot of changes that are going to be for the people, not against the people. I think that I really do hope this administration starts to put more emphasis on mental health and the struggles that we're dealing with. I think that we're seeing so many of our first responders, our vets, everybody out there, there's these tools that should be utilized, but they can't.
Right.
The funding's not there, whatever it is. And I think that that should be a priority, especially when you think about the fires. These people are emotionally, they've lost everything they've had, everything. And, some people value those little momentums, the things that they have held on to. So like animals that are dying. I mean, it's catastrophic.
Yeah.
I don't know that we even know the full effects yet, because, when you're talking about what these people are going to experience as they get out of the shock of what's going on around them, I think we may not even see how it's truly affecting people's mental health, for 6 months to a year or more. Yeah. If you think about even the floods in the Carolinas, I don't even think that we're fully, people are just in survival mode, right? And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they just need their basic needs met right now. And so we're not going to see what's happening to people's mental health for quite a while. Yeah. But I can tell you it's going to really affect it. And many of these people are going to have post-traumatic stress disorder from the things that they've seen, which are horrible. And we're going to see, depression really sink in, as well as the anxiety around that. So I feel like that's coming our way. And if I think about the inauguration and everything that's going on, our country has gone through so much in the last 10 years. And what I hope this administration sees is the need for people to connect and heal. And I think we're seeing some of the divisiveness start to mellow out a little bit, but we still have a ways to go. Yeah. And I just remember growing up and, you had Democrat and you had Republican sides, but people still connected. Right. You could have different opinions. You could sit in the same room with each other. You could talk about your differences. And then we got away from that. For some reason, we got away from let's learn from each other instead of fight each other. And so that's what I hope moves forward, because that's what people need. Yeah. They need to be able to have different opinions without being scared to talk about them. And so I think that's going to be super huge. And I think if we can advance on that, we're going to be able to tackle mental health issues a whole lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. That it's funny that you say that, regardless of whichever side you're on, I think most people generally agree on a lot of the fundamentals.
I agree.
But you're so scared to say anything to not offend someone else or just have that conversation. And, I'm friends with people that we don't see eye to eye on things. So we just don't ever talk about it.
Right.
And that's probably not the best thing. But, it's nice to hear you talk about that conversation and the healing that needs to happen.
I think it's okay to be offended.
Yeah.
Offended is a feeling.
Yeah.
And we learn from our feelings. Our feelings are there to tell us something. And so it's okay to be offended. It's okay to be uncomfortable because we learn from that. Mm-hmm. And so I really feel like when we try to avoid being offended, we're missing out on life's lessons.
And we tell people all the time, feelings are not facts.
Yeah, they are not.
They're not facts.
Yep.
So, seek to understand and seek to be understood. I think that it's very important for people to understand. Go beyond politics. There's a lot of things we don't agree on, but why do we fight over the one thing that is, should be uniting us? It's dividing us. And we talk about this too. Politics has shifted. Back in the day, a Democrat is not the same Democrat they are today.
Right.
And vice versa with Republicans.
Right.
So it's across the board. I think if we can just talk about the differences but you're right, a lot of us don't want to because we just don't, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Change
We
is
don't want to get
inevitable.
canceled.
Yes,
The cancel
yes.
culture is out there.
It's
But
alive and
change
well.
is inevitable, and we have to be comfortable working through change because change is good.
Yep.
And so I feel like, with politics, both sides have changed a lot based on just, life in general and the times that we're in and, technology and all the things that we're exposed to are going to cause us to change. But it's just being able to see people for who they are and realize we all love our country. We have pride in our country. We want people to be successful.
Right.
And I think those are the places where we can connect on.
I love that. Well, in talking about seeking to understand, I saw this come down this week that the House cleared a bill banning transgender women from girls' sports. As parents of girls and from the mental health standpoint, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that.
I have 2 girls, and I've seen how hard my girls have worked hard in leagues that they are a part of. And as a parent, I'd be upset if my child is being outplayed by someone that's biologically not the same sex as them.
Right.
I'm not against what their goal is, but I think my biggest issue has been, why does the minority make the decision for the majority? And it's simple. Form your own league. Like they have the girls' league, they have the men's league. Form your own transgender league. Again, it's not. We need to be coming up with solutions instead of fighting about it.
Yeah.
And I think that if you come up with those solutions, you're in a better place. But as a mom, I wouldn't want my child being forced to do something. You've got injuries. It goes so many different directions. It does. It really does. And, seeing your girls get beat out of something that they've worked really hard for, it's hard.
Yeah.
It is, and this is really near and dear to my heart because my daughter was a student athlete. She ran for Texas A&M, cross country and track and field. And I saw since junior high the amount of work that she put in to getting to college and being a competitive athlete, right? She's running 60 miles a week. She's working out all the time. She's not, doing things other kids are doing because she's working on her skill. And so I am so excited that we're starting to identify that we need to change this. Women's sports, they created Title IX for a reason.
Right.
And it's to really, help bring light to what these girls are doing and the success that and the hard work that they're doing to really meet their goals. And so I really love that we're getting back to those basics. And, what Brandi's talking about is look for solutions. Let's not try to undo things that are working. Right. And because they made so much progress with Title IX and women's sports were really getting, the spotlight. And I think that's amazing. So I would love to see them find solutions to this that doesn't interrupt what's already working.
And, I'm not against their preference at all because that's who they are. And I love that. If you can step out and be who you want to be, I think that's great. And I think that's so important for us to say because this world is thriving because of all the difference in it, right? So I think it's important to know that I'm not against, how you identify. I'm just against forcing it on my girls.
Anyone else.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I always think like that, this is my life. This is what, I'm protected in certain ways, right? And how you want to handle yourself, how you want to identify it, that's up to you, however that works for you. So I think so too. I mean, I think that there has to be limits and boundaries. Yes. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, making options, for people and having that conversation, I think is huge. So that's fantastic.
And it's not really reciprocated. If you look at, people are saying, well, it can go either way. It really can't. You don't see transgender girls competing in boys sports because they're not going to win.
Right. Well, I played a college sport. I played soccer, and I always think about it. My husband is 6'5". He played college football.
Yes.
If he was on the soccer field next to me, I mean, that would just, I'd get annihilated.
Yep. Yes, exactly. There's just the differences are there, and you can't argue that.
Yep. I always think about, I met Riley Gaines, the collegiate swimmer recently, and, she was telling us a little bit about just swimming against a 6'4" swimmer, right? And I just think about that whole story, and, your heart goes out to her because she worked so hard, got the best record of her life, and she felt like it still wasn't enough.
But boy, I'll tell you, the one thing that I love about this whole situation is when doors close, other doors open. And Riley has been a huge voice for the cause. And I think that could be her winning moment. Does that make sense? I mean, I get cold chills thinking about it. She's speaking for so many other people.
Yes.
But she was unfortunately the one that had to experience it. But she's put a light to it, which I think is great.
Well, and I do love that, since she's spoken up, look how many other girls are starting to speak up because they're finding they don't need to be fearful.
Well, and she even said, I was listening to her speak, and it gave me chills. Like you said, when it happened, she was like, I was not planning for this. I did not study this, I was waiting for someone to speak up for me. And when no one did, I knew I had to.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was fantastic.
I just remember because she was, competing back when my daughter was competing. And I just remember watching her on the world stage and, at the NCAAs. And then, here she is. She got second, which she shouldn't have. She should have won. And she's standing next to the winner.
Yes.
And you can see the difference.
Yes.
You can see, there's just no way that was a fair trial for her.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that this is something that really needs to be dealt with. And I'm glad that we're finally getting something passed to really protect women in their sports.
Yeah. I love that. Well, and it's again, the conversation, speaking up about it, not being, silent on the matter, which is fantastic. And I know, again, that your podcast really does that. So if people want to listen in and they want to find out more information, they want to get involved, they want to, sponsor, whatever it is, what's the best way to do that?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, definitely you can go to our website, mentalperk.org, and find us there. Our podcast is available on on all podcast sites and podcast apps, as well as we have a YouTube channel. So you can watch us in person on our YouTube channel. So those are the best ways to find us, and reach out to us and tell us, if you have a topic that you think we need to address, let us know. Please email us and let us know. We would really love to hear from you. And we really like to, make sure that we are covering things that people are really interested in.
I love that. I always try to end this kind of with one last question, and it's kind of a weird one. So if you need a second, you can take it. If I knew you better, what question would I ask you?
Oh.
If you knew me better.
Yeah. How much time we got? I'm thinking.
Ask her what ask her favorite sauce.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Why is this about me and not you? Okay. That's a good one, though.
It is.
Ketchup.
She puts ketchup on the weirdest things.
Really?
I'm saying, Sarah, she puts ketchup on everything.
Oh, that's interesting.
Just look, I tell people your ranch is my ketchup.
Okay.
We're
people put ranch on everything.
You know what's funny though? I didn't put ranch on everything until I moved down here. I didn't know that it was even a thing, like ranch with French fries. No, and
I'm
then
sorry,
I moved
Texas
down here.
messed you up. I'm sorry they messed you up.
Yeah,
girl.
Well, ketchup still
You'd have
belongs
met me to
on
make
French
ketchup.
fries. It does.
Yeah.
Ketchup does belong on French fries, but it does not belong on a burrito or Mexican food or
So ketchup.
Yeah.
All right. I like that. And what about you? What's her question?
Oh yeah,
You guys know each other real well.
Gosh. Where Karla's love, her melting pot of where she's going to end up one day is going to be where?
My melting pot of where I'm going to be end up.
Where you get your freedom from.
Oh, I could have feel like I'm experiencing that now. I love counseling, but just the fact that we're doing this podcast and being able to be in front of people and be able to talk about things I'm truly passionate about, we are so looking forward to starting a talk show at some point about mental health.
Yay!
That's really where my passion
Hey, that's
and
not
love
what
is.
I was going for.
Was it a location? Is it like is it like Hawaii or
Hers in
something?
Colorado.
Oh,
She's
my
in
heart's in Colorado, yes.
I vicariously lived through her pictures.
I
So
love
it's okay.
that.
It must not be
Yes.
that important, Carla.
I was thinking
She's
about
talking about
the
your show.
global
I mean,
picture.
that's
The
great.
global
Yeah,
picture.
yeah.
No, but I do love me some Colorado.
Okay.
That is where, that's where I find my respite.
Yeah,
It's
I love
like,
that.
yes. And so we're building a house out there and we love it. Yes.
Oh, good. Well, good. I hope you're still be in Dallas
Of
too.
course.
Yes.
We're not
All
going
right, good.
anywhere.
Good,
Texas
good.
is my heart.
I love
Yes.
that. Well, thank you ladies so much for
Thanks for
joining
having
us.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget you have the right, the freedom, and the power to be the change that you want to see in the world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.